Technical difficulties, always a good time. So hopefully this is online again. Yay, it looks like everything's working. So Tansei, Oki, bonjour everybody. Hello. Well, I'm kind of like putting all my stuff back online. We had to turn the power off today to fix a few things in the house, but I'm back, so yay. So I hope everybody had a beautiful long weekend, and everybody celebrated it with family and friends and really showed appreciation that, we're still here as Indigenous people. And so I earmarked it and I celebrated it as National Indigenous Peoples Day, or, because we're still here. And the fact that I can celebrate with my family, it's such a gift to be able to do that and to be able to really honor everybody and to have been able to feed everybody in my home, which was just so lovely. There's something really special about welcoming people into your home, especially after not being able to for so long. Even if it was a smaller amount, it wasn't like my massive family, because we're Cree, we're related to everybody. Everybody comes over for dinner. But it was nice to have just like a nice intimate group, and it was very good. But I just wanted to wish everybody a good week ahead. I hope that the week has been enjoyable thus far. I know mine, it's gonna get busy really quick here. So today it was hard to get motivated to get out of my pajamas. And so what motivates me is putting on fun makeup. So I was like, I'm gonna do my eyes really pretty today. So yay, that's what I did today. But I just wanted to welcome everybody into the circle by, of course, acknowledging the land upon which we stand. So I am broadcasting from Mohkinstsis, which is Calgary, Treaty 7 territory. And it's really important just to acknowledge that, because I am so thankful and humbled to be here, to be living here, to be working here, to be sharing here, to be building community in a meaningful way here. And so I honor the families that have been here for time immemorial, for thousands and thousands of generations. I honor the Blackfoot of Siksika, Kainai, and Pagani. I honor the Sursi Dene from Tsuut'ina, and the Stoney Nakoda from Morley, which includes Chiniki, Bears Paw, and Wesley First Nations. We're also walking in the footsteps of Métis Region 3, which is why I proudly wear my Métis sash, and I'm very, very thankful and humbled to have a brand new Métis sash, which was gifted to me from my friend Joanne, and so I'm very humbled to be able to wear this, and think of her every time I now wear this wonderful, beautiful sash. And so I'm thankful to be in Métis Region 3 to act as that bridge between Indigenous and non-Indigenous culture. And so to acknowledge the land, it really acknowledges our place. It acknowledges our responsibility to be able to maintain those relationships, be able to learn about that history and that past, to be able to learn the truth about what has happened. No matter where you are on these lands, there's been so much hurt and hardship, and we can't heal it if we don't learn. And so I'm very thankful to be an educator, to be able to share my story, but to be able to connect people as well, to be able to build community in a meaningful way, and to be able to bring those truths to the surface so we can all heal. And so I just wanted to welcome everyone into the circle today by sharing the Cree welcome song. Traditionally, when we sing songs, we sing in rounds of 4 to honor the 4 directions of the medicine wheel. This song is a little bit different. We sing it in rounds of 3, and that's to keep the circle open and welcoming so everyone completes the circle today. Because in a circle, we're all connected. There's no beginning, there's no end. No one is greater or less than anyone else in the circle, just like in the hoop of life. So it teaches us to honor each other. Oh, it keeps breaking up. I wonder if my internet is bad. Let's see here. No, it looks like I'm not getting any blips on my end. Well, I'm gonna just keep going, and hopefully it won't break up too much. And hopefully it's not my camera, because I'm looking. Thank you for letting me know, though. Thanks, Dan. All right, I'm going to keep going. Maybe I'm going to wiggle my wires a little bit if it continues. But I just wanted to welcome everyone with the Cree welcome song. I love singing this song because I feel like when I sing it, I'm calling in the ancestors. I feel like they surround us, and I bring in everybody's ancestors with this song. And so it feels like we're whole and we're welcomed into the circle, and we're part of something bigger than all of us. Because we're all one, we're all the same. We're, this is why we say all my relations. And so I honor that. And so Miyasina has really led me on that path of starting things in a good way, of creating that sense of connection, that sense of place, that sense of safety, and that space where we can come together to be able to share our stories and, you know, not judge each other, because that's the point of the song. And that's the point of an elder, or that wisdom. It's not judgment. It's really about understanding and compassion and coming back to this place where we can share those stories and learn from each other in a good way. And this song really honors that everyone has a different path, and this is why we can't judge them. We're not the same, and so we have to let people do their own thing, just like we have to be on our own path. We can't have somebody show us or tell us what to do. We have to figure it out for ourselves, because if somebody tells us what to do, they're going to send it down a path that we're not supposed to be on. And so this is really about connecting to yourself, about connecting and honoring everybody around you, and to be able to welcome in your ancestors for, you know, that voice that helps lift you up and connect each and every one of us. So the Cree welcome song is from the Natahau family from Sturgeon Lake, Cree Nation. And I thank them every time I sing this song. I'm so thankful and humbled for so many of the traditional songs that have maintained through the years, that have been shared through the years, some of the new ones that have been created over the years. It just shows how resilient our people can be. It shows how beautiful this culture is, and when we are able to share it in a good way, it shows how important and meaningful it is, and necessary. It's necessary for us to move forward. And so Mia Sin, which is the Cree welcome song, it doesn't just mean welcome, it also means beautiful. And I'm going to stand up to sing it. With my lovely ribbon skirt. This is a new one that I made, and I'm very proud of it, because it's fleece. It's super cozy. Mia Sin, Mia Sin, Hasemina, Hasemina, Epetakote, Niwagomagan, Hota, Homa, Kitaskino, Mia Sin, Mia Sin, Hasemina, Hasemina, Epetakote, Niwagomagan, Hota, Homa, Kitaskino, Mia Sin, Mia Sin, Hasemina, Hasemina, Epetakote, Niwagomagan, Hota, Homa, Kitaskino. Hi, and welcome to the circle today. So I'm not going to smudge today because I don't have as much time as I would like, but I want to share stories today. And so that was a base. I just knocked over a base. Whoops. So the great thing about being on camera is you can't see my mess. I've got a lot of it because we just moved and I still haven't unpacked anything. So behind the veil. I'm just going to knock this down just a touch so you can see me. And I'm going to wiggle the back of the camera cord. So hopefully that'll fix whatever's breaking up. And if so, please give me a thumbs up. So the story that's been circulating around my mind is the Chickadee story. Oh, thank you, Dad. And the Chickadee story is actually the chickadee and the owl story. And the chickadee teaches us how to listen. This is why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we speak. And the chickadee has such joyful way of listening to each other, and they have this beautiful, really warm, cozy, adorable voice, and they're so cute. with their little hair and their little caps. They're so cute. And so the story behind the song is they teach us how to listen. Birds in general will teach us how to listen. And so when one chickadee calls out, chickadee dee 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 dee, you'll hear a little pause before the other one will call back, cheeseburger. So they actually talk to each other that way. But what's really amazing, and I shared this article on my Facebook a while ago, but I think I should probably put it on my website because it's such a great article, is when birds are speaking to each other, when the other bird is speaking, they actually shut down a part of their brain to make them more receptive, to be able to hear and listen better. And they teach us in our own lives, we need to listen to each other. We expect people to listen to us, so we need to listen to them as well. And so it's really about keeping those open lines of communication, not thinking about what you're going to do next or what you're going to say next, but be present, be in that moment, build that relationship, because that's what communication is for building relationships. And so the story that I know behind this, well, this song that I don't want to say I wrote it or created it. It came through me. The Chickadee Song came through me when I was in a sweat. But the story behind this is a long time ago. There were 2 boys and a girl, brothers and sister, and their parents, and they'd all gone on a wonderful hunting trip. And the first thing that the parents saw when they went out into the bush to start hunting was tons and tons and tons of game. And the bear came through, and at the time we weren't afraid of the bear. We actually had relationships and we could speak to a lot of the animals. But I think somewhere along the way we've forgotten how to do that. And the bear came to the mother and father and said, so when you're hunting, we recognize that there's a lot of game around, but don't take more than what you need, and don't take more than what you can carry, or else, there's the rule of law that something bad's gonna happen. And the father and the mother were, of course, like, of course, we would never do that. We know the law of the land. We know, the law of the honorable harvest, only take what you need. But there was so much abundance, and they went off on their own, and they weren't communicating with each other. And so they ended up catching so much game. So much, in fact, that there was no space in the cart for them to take the game back. The whole time they were hunting, the children were, of course, playing, and the mother made sure to tell the children, if they were playing, once it was close to high noon, like close to that sun being high in the sky, when their shadow started to disappear, to go in the teepee and eat lunch. And so this is something that they had always done, and they just thought it was to remember to eat lunch. But the mother explained it was something bigger than that. And then at night, they were always told, when the moon is the highest in the sky, make sure that you are in your teepee, because when that moon starts going down, you won't find your way home. And so they thought, okay, sure. And so they had learned this growing up. And the parents had caught so much game, they brought it all back to camp, and they realized that it wouldn't fit. So at least they wouldn't be able to bring all of the game back, and they wouldn't be able to bring their children back at the same time. And so the mother and father made a decision. Okay, well, we're going to take one load of all of this game back to the village, and then we'll come back, and then we'll come and get the rest of the game, and then the children, because then they'll fit. And the children were fine with that, because there was lots of meat, lots of dried meat, lots of berries to eat. There was lots of stuff. And so the mother made sure she made some pemmicans. So pemmican is when you take the meat and you smush it with a bunch of berries, and super good, super tasty. And so she left that for her children. And then she also left a pile of berries and some of the meat for her kids. And she warned them, again, make sure that when we're gone, you do not come out when it's that high noon, because when your shadow disappears, you might disappear along with it. And the kids were like, okay, Mom. And they thought it was just so they would remember to eat lunch. And then she reminded them again in the evening, when that moon hits that highest point and it starts to dip down, make sure that you are back in the teepee safe and warm, because when your shadow starts to disappear, you could disappear as well. And they thought, okay, Mom. We just thought that was so they would go to bed on time. And so the mother and father, they left. And the children were, of course, playing. They played hide and go seek. They had all of their typical spots that they loved to play in. The daughter loved hide and seek, and she had some of the best spots. But of course, her brothers had played this long enough with her. They knew exactly where she was hiding every time. And so night came. The first night was fine. So it was a 2-day journey back and a 2-day journey there. So the parents would be gone for 4 days. And so that first night was pretty uneventful because they listened to their mother. And the second night, though, the daughter, who was always so curious, she had the most big eyes to see the whole world around her. And she had this beautiful, beautiful face, round face with big freckles everywhere. And she had freckles all over her arms. And she was always calling out to her brothers, "Hey, come over here. Hey, come over here." But she snuck out because she wanted to see the world when the moon was at its highest. And she began walking past where she should have, because she knew she wouldn't make it back to the teepee in time. And so as she walked further and further and further out, the moon became higher and higher and higher in the sky. And as she looked up, she realized it was almost at its highest point. And so she started running. She started running back to her teepee, listening to the words of her mother in her head. "If that moon is the highest and your shadow disappears, you'll disappear." And so as she continued running, she felt like she was floating. And she didn't feel or hear her feet on the ground anymore. She looked down, and all she could see was her arms laid out beside her. She looked over, and her arms weren't arms anymore, and she could soar high into the tree. She tried to call out to her brothers, but she couldn't. And she was tired as the sun started to come up, and so she fell asleep in a tree. And of course her brothers woke up in the morning wondering where their sister was. They realized she didn't even eat her favorite meat that her mother had left for her for breakfast. And so they started looking around for her, calling back and forth for her. "Where did you go? Where did you go?" And as they were calling, they got further and further and further away from their camp. As they looked up in all of her hiding spaces, no, they couldn't find her anywhere, no matter how far they went. But they realized it was just so far out, and they didn't have enough time to get back to camp. But they continued to run as that sun got higher and higher in the sky. And as they continued to run and run and run, they felt like their hearts were beating faster and faster and faster and faster, until when they got to camp, they couldn't open the teepee. They weren't strong enough. And they looked at themselves, and they looked at each other, and they went, because they had changed. Not from those cute boys with those beautiful coiffed hair back in a ponytail running down their spines, but into birds with that jet black hair. And so they didn't know what to do. All they could do was pick up the berries, which was their favorite, and wait for their parents to arrive. A day had passed and a night had passed, and finally their parents had arrived. And the mother looked, and she was quite shocked to see still that massive pile of food waiting for her children. And she called to them, and she called to them, and she couldn't find them anywhere. And then finally she saw these 2 funny little birds that she had never seen before, pecking at the berries and looking at her and calling out to her. They were taking turns to call out to her. And as she looked closer, and she saw the beautiful cap that bird had on each of the birds, she recognized them as her sons. And she was so upset. And then they tried to comfort her, one at a time. Chickadee-dee-dee-dee-dee. And then the other, "Cheeseburger." But her mother continued to sob, and she said, "Why didn't you listen? One of the most important lessons that you will have to share with all children from now on is how to listen." And then they wondered where the girl had gone. And so she packed everything up onto the thing, including the little birds, and she kept calling out for her daughter, calling out for her daughter. She couldn't find her anywhere. And so they were exhausted from the journey and exhausted from searching, and went to sleep. But they heard a funny sound in the middle of the night. "Woo-hoo! Woo-hoo! Woo-hoo!" And she thought maybe that was her daughter coming and calling out. And so she ran out of the teepee, and she was looking around for her daughter with her big eyes and her beautiful freckles. And as she looked up in a tree, all she saw was a big, beautiful bird. And she recognized her right away with her big, beautiful eyes and her big, beautiful freckles everywhere as her daughter. As the owl soared down, she had learned her lesson that she must always listen to the warnings of the forest and to her family. So the owl got loaded onto the trailer, and off they went back to the village to share their story and also to honor the fact that they would be the only children ever to turn into birds, because all of the children learned after that to listen. And so this is why the chickadee teaches us how to listen, and most of those birds teach us how to listen and also enjoy silence. And so this song is the Chickadee Song. Normally I would do it as a call and response to teach people how to sing it. I can, it's going to sound a little awkward, just because I don't have anybody to call and respond with me, because I have teenagers and they refuse to on camera. But the song is, I'm going to break it down and then I'm going to grab my drum and I'll share it back and forth. So hopefully you'll be singing with me. Hop-dee-oh, ho, ho, hop-dee-oh, ho, ho, hop-dee-oh, ho, ho, hop-dee-oh, ho, ho, dee-oh, ho, ho, hop-dee-oh, 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 ho, ho, way-ah-ho, 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 hop-dee-oh, ho, ho, dee-oh, ho, ho, hop-dee-oh, ho, 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 hop-dee-oh, ho, ho, dee-oh, ho, hop-dee-oh, ho, ho, hop-dee-oh, ho, ho, hop-dee-oh, ho, ho, hop-dee-oh, ho, hop-dee-oh, ho, ho, hop-dee-oh, ho, ho. So we're going to sing that through 4 times, starting with the 4 directions of the medicine wheel. I'm going to see if any of the children want to sing with me. 1 second. Hey, Lindonator, can I borrow you? Can I please borrow you just for the Chickadee Song? Please? Hey, Chloe or Ariel, can I borrow you for the Chickadee Song? Okay, no. So that's not happening. But I can still sing. All right. So this is the Chickadee Song.
Hello?
Hey, do you want to sing the Chickadee Song with me? Yeah? Please? It'll take like 3 minutes. Yeah? Okay, cool.
I want to sing though.
That's okay. Just repeat after me. It's super easy.
I won't even on.
Huh? No. Here we go.
Sing with you? Can I sing with you?
Afterwards, like this. Hop-dee-oh, ho, ho. 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 Way-ah-ho. Thanks for singing with me.
That was a long.
Not so long. Awesome. So yeah, that was the Chickadee Song, and that was Chloe. I'm very thankful that one of my kids joined me at least. So the next song that I'll have this next story and song. I've really been thinking of a lot of the stories that I share and how I miss them. I think they teach us so much about ourselves, and what I really love about them is you can hear that same story like a bunch of times, and every time you hear it, depending on the teller, depending on what you're going through, you're going to learn something new, or you're going to take something new away from that story. And so I'm just really humbled that we can do that. So, yeah. And so the next story, this is the Thunderbird story. I haven't shared the Thunderbird story in a really long time. And it goes with the Thunderbird song. And so the story behind the Thunderbird is a long time ago when we were first created. We didn't really know too much about the world, so we were kind of created for the second time because we kind of messed up the world the first time. Not saying that history is repeating itself, but it could be. So that being said, so we didn't have fire. We didn't really know how to clothes or anything like that. So we just kind of we're like, you know, covering ourselves with foliage, which worked for a little while. And so Wasakajak, who is the Cree kind of trickster spirit, he's a little bit like Nappy, he's a little bit like Nanabush, or Nanaboju, depending on which teaching you are. But Wasakajak kind of had that same role where he's kind of our caretaker. He's kind of wants to teach us lessons and teach us things, but at the same time, he's flawed. You know, he teaches us that we're flawed too, and we have to work on our things. And so Wasakajak was kind of always taking care of us because he knew that he messed up the first time. So he wanted to make sure that he didn't mess up the second time so that we would still be here. And so as we were, kind of going about our business, and it was really beautiful. So for the most part, the weather had held for the 4 years that we had been around, for the 4 years that we had been created. And it had been really warm and not very cold. Even our winters, they weren't really that cold. So we were kind of able to like huddle together and we were okay. But then there was one winter and it was so bitterly cold. It was so cold that the two-leggeds, which is us, started dying because we were freezing to death. And so Wasakajak went to Creator and he said, Creator, it is too cold. You have to do something. And Creator said, no, like we need the cold. We need it to snow and we need it so that the world can like be reborn every year because of course the plants and the animals, they need time to sleep. They need time to rest if they're the ones that hibernate in the winter, and they need time to recover. The earth needs time to recover. So we have to have that weather change. We have to have winter. And Wasakajak said, but look at the two-leggeds. They're freezing to death. They're starving. They don't know what to do with themselves because all they can do is wrap themselves in plants and eat plants. So there's got to be a better option, Creator. How are we going to save them? And Creator said, well, why don't we go get the buffalo? I have a very good idea and a very good task for the buffalo. And so Wasakajak brought the buffalo to Creator, and Creator said, Buffalo, the two-leggeds are dying because it is cold and they do not have clothes, they do not have food, and so I would like you to show them how to use every part of your being so that they can be fed, so that they have tools, so they could be clothed, and so they could be housed. And so the buffalo went to the two-leggeds and he showed them how to use every aspect of his being, how to use his hide for not only clothes but also tools to be able to use also for the teepee, for the outside of teepee canvases, and how to make those things last. He showed us how to use the hump bat to be able to moisturize not only our skin but different like tools that we were using, our hides that we were using. He showed us how to use different parts of the bone splinters to be able to sew with, how to use the sinew, like the cartilage and bones, to stretch it all out so that we had things to sew with. And he showed us how to sew. Not only that, but he showed us how to, eat his meat, how to be able to dry it in the sun so that it would be able to be used, how to be able to mash it to make pemmican, usually pemmican's made with deer, but buffalo pemmican is really good. And so he showed us all of these wonderful things, and he showed us how to make these beautiful clothes so that we would be warm. And he showed us how to use our buffalo robes, not only to lay on so that we had that protection from the earth when the earth got really cold, but also to wrap around ourselves to keep us warm, to create moccasins out of, to keep us warm. And so Creator was so thankful that the buffalo had given all of this wisdom and given of itself to the two-leggeds, that the buffalo became one of the sacred animals who carries one of that sacred teaching of respect for all beings and respect for itself. So you need to honor and respect the buffalo. And so it worked really well for a while until one year, 4 years later, it was crazy, crazy cold. It was the coldest winter any of the animals and any of the two-leggeds have ever experienced. And so no matter how many layers of buffalo hide they had on them, they were still freezing to death. And so Wasakajack went to Creator again and said, Creator, the two-leggeds, they're dying again. How are we going to be able to save them? Because it's just too cold, and it doesn't matter how many layers and how they huddle together. They're just not going to make it through the winter, Creator. And Creator thought for a moment, and he's like, well, there's nothing really I can do. And Wasakajack thought for a moment and said, well, what about fire? Can't you give them fire, Creator? If we give them fire, then they can stay warm. Then they can cook warm meals and stay warm in their bellies. Oh, Creator, let's give them fire. And Creator shook his head and said, Wasakajack, last time we gave them fire, they destroyed the world. I don't want to do it again. And Wasakajack said, but Creator, it's so important to give them fire so that they can. Can we please just, can we ask the Thunderbird? Because the Thunderbird carries fire. Let's see what she says. And Creator said, no, my answer is final. We will not give the two-leggeds fire. But Wasakajack was determined. And so Wasakajack went and he visited. He climbed to the tallest mountain and went in the cave where he knew the Thunderbird was. And he asked the Thunderbird, hey, Thunderbird, would you be able to give the two-leggeds fire? And the Thunderbird shook her head and she said, Wasakajack, Creator has already been asked to give the two-leggeds fire. And said no. And so I am saying no because Creator said no. And then Wasakajack said, okay. Kind of like you asking both your parents and getting the same answer, but he was determined. And so he waited until the Thunderbird fell asleep. And when the Thunderbird fell asleep, her whole cave just rumbled with the sound of thunder, because of course she snored quite a bit. And so as that thunder was rolling across and down the mountain, it created this huge snowstorm. And as the snow was falling, Wasakajack's footsteps into the cave were silenced, and he was able to tiptoe deep into the cave and reach underneath the Thunderbird into her nest and pull out a single egg of fire. And he started to carry it out very quietly. And as he started to tiptoe, he started to get a little overconfident, a little overzealous, and because he wasn't paying attention, he was just so proud of the fact that he had stolen from the Thunderbird, and she was fierce and terrifying, but he had done it, and he tripped. He tripped over a big, huge root, and the Thunderbird egg started to roll. It started to roll faster and faster, and then it started to roll down the side of the mountain. And as it did, it rolled towards the two-leggeds village. It rolled faster and faster, and as it did, it started lighting all of these trees on fire because it was a really hot fire egg. And all of the animals started waking up and making so much noise, going, Thunderbird, Thunderbird, there's fire, you have to help us put it out. And so the Thunderbird shook herself awake, and she saw at the mouth of her cave the beautiful, no, he was a troublemaker. He saw Wasakajack, and she was like, Wasakajack, you stole one of my eggs. And so she was angry. She started running after Wasakajack. Wasakajack started running down the mountain trying to catch the Thunderbird egg, but it kept going left and right and left and right. It would just hit a rock and turn the other direction, creating fire everywhere it went, till finally he got close to the slope of the hill where it started to even off towards the humans, the two-leggeds village, and he caught that beautiful egg, and he saw the Thunderbird coming, and so he continued to run with it, but it was slowing him down. So he thought, okay, where can I store this egg? I can swallow it. So he swallowed the Thunderbird egg and got pretty bad heartburn, but continued to run. But no matter which way he ran through the beautiful snow, the Thunderbird could see him because he had stark black hair. And so he said, well, I've got to change so I can blend in with the snow. And so he changed himself into Wapoose, the white rabbit, and he started bouncing through all of the dunes of snow and hiding. But because he was trying to get away from the Thunderbird, he started zigging and zagging and zigging and zagging. And all of the Wapoose, all of the rabbits, as they watched this, were like, huh, that's a really good idea. Zigging and zagging to get away from predators. And so from that point on, they began to do the same. And so as this chase continued, all of the animals and all of the plants started watching as just this craziness was happening. And the Thunderbird saw a clearing of aspen trees, and he started, Wasakajack saw a clearing of aspen trees and started running towards them saying, Aspens, Aspens, you have to protect me from the Thunderbird. And they were so terrified of the Thunderbird that they began to tremble and shake. And to this day, they continue to tremble and shake anytime they start to feel even a little bit of wind hitting them. And he said, okay, I can't hide there. So he continued to run and run and run as Wapoose. And then he saw a beautiful clearing of gorgeous white trees, stark white, just stunning. And he knew that was the perfect place to hide. So he ran and he said, birch trees, you must protect me, you must hide me. And so they said, of course, Wasakajack, please come and hide beneath our roots. And so Wasakajack jumped in, and for a moment, the Thunderbird couldn't find him because the trees were so white, the snow was so white, and as Wapoose the rabbit, he was very white as well. Wasakajack was almost camouflaged, but then she caught sight of him, that one little ear, which was still tipped with black, till she recognized that was Wasakajack. And so she began soaring down towards the trees. And as she got closer and closer to the birch trees, she said, birch trees, give me that Wasakajack. And they said, no, we will protect Wasakajack. And so she started to get angry, and she started to slash at the trees with her claws, her Thunderbird claws, which were made of sheer lightning. And they started to burn these deep gouges into the white bark of the birch tree. And still to this day, the ancestors of the birch tree can still see those deep gouges. But then Wasakajack turned around and he watched as all of the two-legged started wandering towards the fire that was creeping towards the village. So they started warming themselves. Life started coming back into their skin. And they started talking and sharing. And Wasakajack came out and said, wait, Thunderbird, wait, stop. Just for a moment, please turn around and look at the two-leggeds. And so the Thunderbird turned around, and as she watched the two-leggeds walk towards the fire and warm themselves, she took pity on them. She felt in her soul that they had needed this all along, because they were such beautiful creatures. But then she listened closely, and they started sharing stories. They started sharing stories of all that they had witnessed. How now Wapoose the rabbit zigzags. The story of how that Wasakajack always gets into trouble. The story of that beautiful, majestic Thunderbird who went and put out the fire as she soared with her snow and with her rain. The story of how the aspen trembles, and of course the story of how those beautiful burn marks got into the birch's bark. And so she stopped for a moment, and she looked at Wasakajack and said, Wasakajack, I think you're right. I think these two-leggeds, they do need fire. But Wasakajack, you have to teach them the ways of fire. You have to teach them ceremonies so they remember how to use fire and how to honor it in a good way. And also you'll have to teach them how to use it to cook, to clean, to smoke hides, to warm themselves, but how to do it responsibly, and how to hold a sacred fire. And Wasakajack agreed. Thunderbird went to Creator and let Creator know the decision that was made. And Creator agreed as well. And so Wasakajack shared all of the teachings and fire practices that we still keep to this day, and how important it is to respect and honor our stories, which we share around the fire. And that is the Thunderbird story. And so I'm going to share the Thunderbird song now. And the Thunderbird also it teaches us that everything happens for a reason. So within that story, there was a lot of craziness, a lot of chaos, but There was a lot of things that happened in there for a reason. And so when I share the Thunderbird song, Thunderbird is like, it's like that guiding force. It's a fate or destiny. It's that thing that pushes us forward. It's the thing that teaches us where we need to go and how to get there. And it teaches us really that if we're on the right path, sometimes it seems easier, and it's okay. It's okay if our path is easy, because it means it's the right path. But when we keep, getting stuck in ruts, eventually the Thunderbird will get fed up with us and then kick us in the butt and put us on the right path. And so, yeah, this is the Thunderbird song. And the Thunderbird has been instrumental in my life. And so whenever I have a hard time, I remember this song and I sing this song and I share this song. Because a few years ago, a few years, it's almost a decade now, my life took a huge turn. I was hit by a truck, and in that moment, I had to think, not, oh, why did this happen to me, but why did this happen to me? What was the path that I was on now that was wrong, that was incorrect? And had it not been for that accident, it wouldn't have put me on the path that I'm on now, the path where I'm sharing, the path where I'm teaching, the path where I'm able to connect with everyone. And I was able to be involved with, Idle No More and all of these other causes that are so, so important to all of our communities. And had it not been for that accident, had it not been for the Thunderbird hitting me with a truck, I would be where I am now. And so it teaches us that even though some of those really terrible things happen to us, they happen for good reason. Even though we've had experiences that might be bad with some people, it teaches us that, we're strong. It gives us that strength. And it's not about living as a victim, but it's about living as a victor, taking those traumas and taking that pain and taking that hurt and changing it into your victory, into your pride and your strength and your perseverance and the path ahead that helps. And so, yeah, this is the Anishinaabe Thunderbird song. Whoops. And this song was, I learned it from a few people. Carrie Moore is the first person that I think I reheard it from, because I remember hearing it as a kid. And then there was a couple other, like Sharon Pooh Turner shared the song again. There's quite a few. I don't know what's going on upstairs, but it's a rumble in the jungle for teenagers. So here is the Thunderbird song. So I'm going to share another song. So this song, again, I don't feel like I wrote it, I feel like it came through me, is a song that came through me when I was working with my good friend Audrey Lane. She's amazing, an incredible artist and phenomenal poet, and spoken word is just like beyond. I love it. But the project that I was working on was called Wild Constructs, and it was really about honoring the voice and the songs and the stories of the Weaselhead. And there's so much development that's happening there. But through all of that, I actually went in a couple different seasons, and each season, what I heard clear as a bell was, of course, my guide, which is the blue jay. She's always like, whenever I'm like, maybe I should just move on. She's like, no, don't, stay, keep going. She really is a very not subtle guide, and this is why I love her so much. But what I was hearing is just this cacophony of all of these birds. No matter what season it was, there was all of these birds, and they were always talking to each other. But sometimes they were talking to each other, sometimes they were only talking to their kin, but no matter what, they just created this cacophony, which gave me an epiphany of sound that reminded me that even though they were individual voices, they made up this beautiful whole of sound. And that's like our community. We need to honor everybody's voice in our community. So this really became the Blue Jay song, the community bird song. And normally I would sing it with a drum, but I think I'm going to sing it with a rattle today. Just because I made this lovely rattle, and I'm looking forward to making more rattles. I'll be posting a rattle making workshop coming up soon in November. But yeah, so this is the community bird song, also known as the Blue Jay song. It's really about our ancestors calling us, and the ancestors are our birds, the birds as well, because we always say all my relations, because we are all related. And so this is the ancestral bird song. Way-ah, way-ah, way-oh. 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 So I'm gonna share a closing song, a goodbye song. Well, not really a goodbye, because we don't really have a word for goodbye. So this song is this is the traveling song. This is to wish everybody a good week. It's getting cold, so it reminds us, like, if you're gonna go on a path, bring a jacket. So I'm trying to tell this to my teenagers, wear some pants. So but this song really it reminds us that everything can come back around, and that sometimes when you let things go, or when you forget things, or when you think something's not going to come back, when it does, it means that you're back on the right path and you're doing good work. And so this song I had learned from my elder Sharon Poo Turner, and I've been thinking a lot about her lately. She has a very special place in my heart, because it was the first two-spirit elder that I'd actually ever worked with, and I was so thankful and humbled for the teachings that she had shared, and for the voice and the song and just the warmth and the guidance, and I really miss that. I have a lot of really beautiful elders, but there was just something very different about having someone who really got me as a two-spirit person. But this song is really about finding your path, but acknowledging that the journey is such a huge part of that. It's really acknowledging that all roads are going exactly where they're supposed to. And no matter all of the twists and turns that life throws at you, you've got this, because you have the ancestors that are behind you. You have, you know, all of your family, all of your friends, and sometimes we take on friends as family, and this is really what that song is about. It's really about, you know, everybody, all my relations that connect us and that guide us on our path. It reminds us to learn from every person that crosses our path, because everything and everyone is an opportunity to learn and to listen and to love. And so this is truly what this song has always meant to me. And so even though it's not really a goodbye song, it's a see you later, see you soon song, but it teaches you that, you know, your path might lead you away, but it will always lead you home, because home is right here. It's right within your heart, and it's exactly where you make it. And so this is the traveling song, and I think because it had left me for several years once my elder had passed, but it came back around when I was doing a project through theater, of all things, but through my friend Yolanda and my friend Ashley, who brought it back. And so I'm so thankful and humbled whenever I share it. And it just showed me that I am on the right path, and that you should never doubt the path that is in front of you. Don't let anybody else tell you the path that you should be on. You got to figure it out for yourself. And so this is the traveling song. I wish everybody a beautiful week, a beautiful month, a beautiful life, and just good work ahead. week. And aw, thank you. And yeah, I just really appreciate being able to share and being able to, you know, keep this going on days even that I feel like, oh, I'm so tired, I don't want to do it. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna put my makeup on, I'm gonna take a breath, and I'm gonna share because this is the gift that Creator gave me. So yeah, hi everyone, thank you so much. Have a beautiful week, and I guess I'll see you next Tuesday if I don't see you beforehand. Bye bye.